Liberty Village. So why wait? Help us build Liberty Village by visiting unitedwepledge.org and ordering your Blueprints of Liberty flag today.
Balance of Nature is fruits and vegetables in a capsule, changing the world one life at a time.
I'll tell you what the product does. It makes me feel better. What price can you put on that? You can't. And so I go to the gym every day. I walk every day. I do what you're supposed to do. In other words, it puts pep in my step, man. I'm 69 years old, going on 19. You understand? It makes me feel better. And everything works out real well, man. It's great stuff. No, there's no question or doubt about it.
Start your journey to better health with Balance of Nature. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com to get 35% off your first preferred order. That's 1-800-246-8751. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this special offer by using discount code BALANCE.
Inflation is pushing up the cost of just about everything: food, gas, clothing. But life insurance, which thanks to inflation you need now more than ever, actually costs less today than it did a few years ago. Now is the time to get the insurance you need at a price you can afford. Call SelectQuote now and we'll help you save more than 50% on term life insurance. In a hurry? Don't worry. With SelectQuote, you can get up to $2 million in instant, same-day coverage with no medical exam. That's right. Get up to $2 million in instant, affordable same-day coverage with no medical exam in under an hour.
Call SelectQuote now at 1-800-507-2266. That's 1-800-507-2266. Or go to SelectQuote.com now and get up to $2 million in instant same-day coverage with no medical exam. That's 1-800-507-2266.
Full details on example policies at SelectQuote.com/commercials.
You don't want to mess with the IRS. They have the power to garnish your paycheck, levy your bank accounts, and even take your home or business. That's all true. But thankfully, they're offering a way out, a fresh start initiative. If you qualify, you could save thousands. The experts at Optima Tax Relief will fight to get you the best deal possible. And they have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau to prove it. Call Optima for your free consultation.
Call 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433.
Optima Tax Relief.
For details, visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
I continue to call on Congress to pass the Junk-Free Prevention Act, because that's what American consumers deserve.
Welcome back, America. The president putting a target on our back, the Junk-Free Protection Act. He's coming from my studio, joined now by David M. Drucker. I don't think he's got any junk at his house. Hey, David, how are you?
I'm great, Hugh. How are you?
I'm good. I believe it is now impossible not to talk about the president's age. It has become so glaringly obvious that he's an old guy, David. And his numbers are down to 36% in the Wall Street Journal poll, 38% in Gallup. Are those outliers, or does that reflect immigration, or does it reflect his age?
So, look, really interesting subject, obviously, and very apropos to discuss. The 36% is the ABC News poll. The Wall Street Journal poll a few weeks earlier, conducted by jointly by Biden's pollster and Tony Fabrizio, who has polled for Trump, show the president doing not so great, but better than that, right? Low 40s. And so what I always look for as a political reporter are trends and averages. I remember, and this isn't to dismiss this poll. Look, I just wrote recently with my colleague Audrey Fahlberg about the president's age and the fact that he, every single day, sets a record as the oldest person ever to occupy the presidency. And it is something that we know is on voters' minds. But what I want to see is not just this one poll, but I want to see successive polls and see if this is veered into problem territory for the president versus, well, it looks like a problem, but really when you look at the campaign like a binary choice, it's a problem that can be easily overcome, notwithstanding, overcome as long as they really don't want to vote for the other choice.
Now, David, a Rose Garden campaign is a tried and true approach. Jimmy Carter ran one in 1980. We haven't seen it since then. But to have a Rose Garden campaign, you've got to go into the Rose Garden and talk to people. The president doesn't do that. It's the least accessible president of my memory. I think Reagan had much more interaction with people. He used to cock the ear and pretend to hear people, and he couldn't hear them. Do you, on your metric of accessibility, how accessible or not accessible is Joe Biden to the press?
No, look, he's not. Well, look, he's not very accessible. I mean, that's just a fact. Now, Democrats tell me that they're not going to run a Rose Garden campaign, that you're going to see him traveling the country, and that, if they don't really like to put it this way, but what they're basically saying with a wink and a nod is, this time he's got a big private plane to fly around on, and that's going to make things easier. So I'm actually not, based on what Democrats are telling me, expecting a Rose Garden campaign or a front porch campaign. Although I wouldn't blame the guy if he wanted to spend the summer at his beach house in Delaware, because it's very beautiful there. But I think that we're going to see him on the trail. And I think that if this age issue is what we think it is politically and it persists, he's not going to have any choice but to engage more, even though it will probably always be less than some of his predecessors, and to travel the country more to try and put that anxiety to rest.
David, I think this is becoming the on Golden Pond presidency. And that's the famous Henry Fonda movie where he is aging and he goes back one more time to his favorite place. The president is really not got the energy he needs for this. And it's a concern when you think about Xi and Putin and Khamenei, as I said on Special Report last night. What do you think they think of him?
Well, it is a very good question. I tend to think that I look at it like this, Hugh. I think policy is a lot more important than energy, because energy invested in the wrong way doesn't really do the U.S. any good. And I would presume that if you're Xi and you're dealing with an aging Biden who is causing you trouble when it comes to your plans to take over Taiwan, that's more problematic for you than dealing with somebody who's more vigorous, who's willing to lay down and let you take the island whenever you want. So I really think this is a domestic political issue, because, Americans for a long time have been concerned about the idea that, somebody who's going to have what we generally refer to as the most difficult job on the planet. You go in at 45, and we've seen people go in at 45, and they come out 8 years later looking like they're 10 years older than that, because that's just the kind of job it is. And so I think Joe Biden has some work to do on that front. Internationally, I think policy is much more important, because policy is going to outlast the president.
Now, I have now come to believe it's an LBJ head fake, and I referenced it last night, and the stage manager at Special Report didn't know what I was talking about. LBJ gets challenged by Eugene McCarthy in 1968 when the New Hampshire primary is in March. McCarthy doesn't win. He gets 42%, and LBJ drops out. I think our RFK Jr. can do this to him. What do you think?
I don't think RFK Jr. can do it, because he's not running like the kind of candidate that's going to incite the Democratic base and where the energy of the party is. I think he's getting by on name ID and a general frustration that I can't believe we're going to have another Biden-Trump rematch, and Biden was a bridge to the future. And, he was just the best guy for Trump at the time in 2020, but I didn't think this was a long-term proposition. To the extent that he is a threat at all, they'll make sure Democrats will, and the Biden campaign would, that Democrats know what his positions are on issues like vaccines and other things, and he's not going to get anywhere. What the president would have to worry about is a younger version of Bernie Sanders, or at least somebody young and dynamic and inspiring, even if they were center-left and not left-left. That would happen only if he really appears to be a liability beyond the discussion you and I
think he and wait and see. I think we're going to see Kamala Harris as the nominee with an exit in January. But
when you absolutely, positively need the truth, this is where you turn. This is the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Would you spend $50 to take down the Biden crime family? Join the fight against corruption. Sunlight.org, that's SUNLYT.org, is dedicated to fighting corruption in all levels of government, politics, and even corporate America. They use crowdfunding to encourage